Okay, so today, if I'm not mistaken, we're reading the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text number 18. That makes sense? 18. Antavanta ime deha nityas sarirana anasina premiyasya tasmat yudyasva bharata. Translation. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There's no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed. In other words, you can't kill the spirit soul. As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So, from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity, as he cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. Let's see, one second. The minute particle of the whole spirit acquires this material body according to his work, and therefore observance of religious principles should be utilized. In the Vedanta Sutras, the living entity is qualified as light because he is part and parcel of the supreme light. As sunlight maintains the entire universe, so the light of the soul maintains this material body. As soon as the spirit soul is out of this material body, the body begins to decompose. Therefore, it is the spirit soul which maintains this body. The body itself is unimportant. Arjuna was advised to fight and not sacrifice the cause of religion for material bodily consideration. So this verse again, the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Well, here we see that's very important to understand the body and the soul and the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the position of the jiva. So there's body, soul, jiva, Krishna. You have to understand these four things, and then you won't be misled. If you think I'm only the body, then you become convinced that the real purpose of life is sense gratification. And that means that you're going completely in the wrong direction. So I would say 98% of the people in the world are going in the wrong direction. 98% of the people in the world are going in the wrong direction because they think I am this body. And when the body dies, it's over. Everything is over. There's nothing There's no afterlife. And like all the Christians, like how many Christians are there in the world? Over 1 billion Christians, 1.4 billion Christians, I think, in the world. And they all believe that you only live once. And when you die, either you go to hell or you go to heaven. They also have something called purgatory, but we won't complicate things too much. So, okay, well, we'll talk a little bit about purgatory. Purgatory is some Christians, after they die, they go to this place called purgatory where they wait for the second coming of Jesus to make a final decision where they're going to end up. Either they're going to end up in hell or they're going to end up in heaven. Anyway, that's Christianity. That's not what we believe. We believe that there's such a thing as reincarnation. The Christians don't believe in reincarnation. Because they don't believe in reincarnation, there's a lot of confusion in Christianity. And even the Christians among themselves, when you talk about morality, it's all the same, whether it's Hare Krishna or as Christians or Jews or Muslims. Morality is virtually all the same. When you talk about, what happens after you die, oh my God, it gets really complicated and confusing. There's so many different theories. And when you talk about who is God, also it gets a little confusing. There's so many different, uh, uh, you know, uh, what you would call theories. Okay, so the main thing is that if we understand that we have an eternal soul, and that's our soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So part means we have been expanded. We're an expansion of Krishna, right? We're not equal to Krishna, but we're an expansion of Krishna. But we're also a unique individual. That's what parcel means. We're a unique individual. So that means that our original position was to be with Krishna. It's just like a son grows up and gets to be 16 or 18 years old, then he leaves his family, goes away. And, the family is always worried, where is he? What's he doing? And the boy sort of forgets the family. But yeah, when he gets to be 30, 35, he comes back to the family. And the family is very glad to see him, right? So in that way, we have maybe some religious teaching when we're younger. Then we go to these schools that are atheistic, and that teaching becomes weaker unless they go regularly to churches or synagogues or whatever. And then you get into your 16, 18 years old and going to college. You don't have any time to do much spiritual activity. And you can go to maybe 30, 40, 50 years old, and then all of a sudden you realize that you want to have, uh, you walked away from religion. Now you want to come back to it. And uh, so the the problem is that uh, there's no real continuity. I mean, this is not everybody, but a lot of people. So they get so involved in making money, getting sense gratification, and wanting to be so-called happy by sense gratification that the whole let's say commitment to spirituality becomes very weakened. Even Prabhupada said that when he went to college, his his practice of Krishna consciousness was weakened because he was, had to do some studies and so forth. And he was always being challenged by these British Christian teachers, And but, by meeting his spiritual master, then that all ended, and he became very, let's say, very, very, you know, related back to his Krishna conscious roots. But that happens to almost everyone. Once you get into high school and then college, and then you have a career. Sometimes you don't really feel like you have the time to come to the temple regularly and so forth, unless there's a strong congregation, and that you have strong desire to have a spiritual life. But for most people, their whole dedication to spiritual life becomes very weakened by coming out of college and then working and so forth, and just worried about their job and making money. Okay, so the number one thing we have to realize is there's no possibility of maintaining the material body indefinitely. However, most people are being, let's say, fooled to think that by 2050, death will be optional. Have you heard that? Why don't you look that up? And by 20, there are a whole bunch of people guaranteeing this, that by 2050, they'll figure out how to uh, prolong the life of a living being in this body and eventually make death optional. If you want to die, you can die. If you don't want to die, they'll keep you alive forever. It's like, having a car and replacing, all the parts of the car. Every time they break down, you just replace it.
Actually 2045. 5 years faster.
Yeah. It's 2045.
Yeah, there's a book. Yeah.
What's it say?
If I can, if the sensational but well-researched book to Murate, the book name is La Murate de la Murate, something like, authored by two genetic engineers, is to be believed. Within 27 years, death would be an option and aging reversible. Shiny Saxena tells you more, something like that. But yeah, there is a quote from Stephen Hawking: "The whole history of science has been the gradual realization that events do not happen in an arbitrary manner, but
That means there's no God that's controlling things. That's what that means.
but that they reflect a certain underlying order, which may or may not be divinely inspired."
Which may or may not be divinely inspired. Yeah. You see how they talk? It's very slick. May or may not. Everything is divinely inspired, divinely controlled.
There is this on the same topic. There is a LinkedIn article.
Okay, speak louder. Speak louder.
Cardiero, who's based in Massachusetts Institute of Technology (MIT) in the USA, says he has chosen not to die, and that in 30 years' time he will be younger than he is today. Aging is the result of DNA tails, known as
DNA what?
DNA tails.
Tails.
And known as telomeres or telomers, in chromosomes, of which every cell except red blood and sex cell has 23 pairs. Becoming shorter and reversing aging involves lengthening the telomeres. telomeres become damaged and shortened with the passage of time, a process that speeds up in the event of toxins entering the body. Smoking, alcohol, and air pollution are among elements that reduce the length of telomeres, thus accelerating aging. Cardiero and Wood believe that within 10 years, illnesses such as cancer will be curable, and that major international corporations such as Google will be entering the field of medicine because they're beginning to realize that curing aging is possible.
Curing aging is possible. In other words, you're going to stop aging.
Microsoft has reportedly announced the setting up of Crypto Preservation Center, in which the scientist is researching the possibility of cancer being completely curable within the decade. The engineers explain that although people generally do not know about it, it was discovered in 1951 how cancer cells are immortal. When Henrietta Lacks died from cervical cancer, surgeons removed the tumor and kept it, and it is still alive today. Immortality will not necessarily mean the planet becomes overcrowded. Scientists say there is still plenty of room for more people on Earth. And these days, people do not have anywhere near as many children as they did in the past decades and centuries. Plus, it will be possible to live in space by then. Japan and Koreans, and if they continue to with the current trend of hardly having any children, will become extinct within 2 centuries. There will be no Japanese or Korean people on the planet. But thanks to these new technologies, there will indeed be Japanese and Korean people because they will live forever and remain young. The cost of anti-aging treatment will be compared to that of the latest smartphone. At first, it will be expensive, but with the competitive market, the price will gradually fall because it will be something that benefits everyone. Cardier says. Technology, when it's new and it's poor and extremely expensive, but it eventually becomes democratic and mainstream and becomes cheaper. The engineers say they have already been employing their techniques for 2 years illegally, but in Colombia, where there are fewer regulations covering genetic manipulation.
The Columbia state or the
Country.
country? Yeah.
Elizabeth Parrish, the first human patient, started to see symptoms of aging and asked what could be done to prevent it. Her treatment is very risky and even illegal, Would explain. But at the moment, is going well, has not had any adverse side effects, and the level of telomeres in her blood is 20 years younger than before. I want Spain to have a place. So these people are from Spain. I want Spain to have a place in the world of these technologies to show that we're not just mad. It's just that people still don't know about them. So the Death of Death will be eventually published in 4 languages.
The death of death. Whoa. I never heard that before. The death of death. You see, this is complete nonsense. You know, total nonsense. But nonsense people will believe it. And this is something we should learn. If you are a cheater, you will be cheated. Just like the big fish eats the little fish, right? So if you're a cheater, there's going to be a bigger cheater that will cheat you, right? But if you're an honest person, right, and let's say a God-fearing person or a person who, believes in God and things like that, you not believe this nonsense that they write. You know, death is the death of death. God, this is completely nonsense. You know, and they're just talking about the body.
Yeah.
They don't say the soul. They just say the body. They want to perpetuate the body. They want the body to become immortal, right? Because they don't even believe that there's such a thing as a soul.
Don't have knowledge of this.
Because they can't measure it, they can't see it. So, they think that everything is made from matter. But actually, the real truth is that life comes from life. It doesn't come from dead materials. Right? But they believe that, at one point, by a mixture of matter and this thing and that thing, you get the first living cell, and then it evolves into a whole human being over a long period of time. That's their theory, right? But that's not true. It's an unproved theory that you can make one living cell from, mixing matter together or mixing chemicals together. They never produced that, that experiment. The science. Okay, let's go over this again. I'm going to actually write a book about this. Scientists say that the scientific method is you make observations, you see some, what you would call recurring, what? Patterns. Yeah, recurring patterns. And you make a theory, and then you have to experiment to see if it's true or not. All they're doing now is they're just making up a theory without any evidence, and but there's no experiment. So it's not really science; it's science fiction. What they're doing now. You can't say it's science unless you actually experiment and show that your theory is correct because you did the experiment. Right? Like, for example, cryonics. Look that up, cryonics. Cryonics is when, before you die, let's say you have a terminal disease,
Practice of freezing.
before you die, they freeze you in nitrogen gas. And you have to pay them a lot of money, like, I don't know, $250,000 or something like that. Once Walmart gets into the business, it'll be less. And they freeze you, and they watch you, make sure the electricity doesn't go off and so forth, and waiting until this, what you would call, 2045 or 2050, when they're all saying that you'll be able to, death will be optional. And at that time, they're going to unfreeze you. Now, you see, they haven't experimented. If they freeze a human being, right, with nitrogen gas or whatever it is, and wait 1 year, and then thaw them and turn off the gas, you think that person would be alive? No, they're going to be dead. You see, but they don't do that. They don't see. It's not scientific. They haven't experimented. They don't know if that person is going to be alive when they turn the gas off. And see, it's not scientific. Science means you see a pattern, you make a theory, then you experiment to see, if there is, if there's predictability of that theory by experimentation. And then if you have 100% predictability, then it's no longer a theory, it's fact, right? If you have like 50% or 25%, it's still a theory. Maybe 51% becomes a scientific theory, right? If it's 100%, it becomes fact, right? So, but they're not doing that. So I mean, if you freeze a person and then you thaw the person, you think he's going to be alive?
This is done right after death, Maharaj. Cryonics is the practice of freezing and storing a deceased person's remains
Cryonics? Yeah.
at a low temperature, usually around minus 196 degrees centigrade, in the hope that they can be revived in the future. The goal is to preserve the person's neurological structure so that future technologies may be able to restore their personality and memories.
Maybe.
The process is usually started shortly after death, with the body being packed in ice and transported to a cryonic facility.
Okay.
But still, they are hoping something to happen in future.
Clearly mentioned in Wikipedia, cryonics is the low temperature freezing and storage of human remains.
What?
Yeah.
Of human remains?
Yeah, human remains.
Okay, so they're dead.
With the speculative hope. They themselves calling that. With the
Speculative.
speculative hope that resurrection may be possible in the future.
That what? Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Yeah.
That's what they
It's
say.
unbelievable that people believe that.
The first
Look how
person.
much it costs to freeze a dead body and keep it, frozen year after year after year.
Prices with other organizations can be as much as $200,000 or more for whole body cryopreservation and $80,000 for a neuro head only option.
But
There are different rates.
is that a year or is that just
Lifetime.
one time a one-time payment, or is that every year?
So Maharaj, there are different lifetime, then you can take annual or post-mortem, something like that. The different rates are there. So for lifetime, it is 28,000. Does not include.
No, but when you say lifetime, what do you mean lifetime? Guy's dead already.
I don't know what they call it. And lifetime membership.
So
Human.
I was just looking at Maharaj.
Yeah.
This conflicting research on this earlier one, the aging thing.
Yeah.
So people thought that the telomeres, which is nothing but end caps of the DNA.
Yeah.
So what happens is that every cell starts with certain extra thing, and then it splits. So then the telomere again splits into half, and then eventually the end cap, when end cap is over, means like the cell can split maybe 10 times, something like that. After that, it cannot expand anymore. It cannot split anymore. So that's the end of basically human, reproduction of the cells. So what they thought is that they can extend it. So they did a lot of research about extending the telomeres. So that now, if they extend it, that means like now the cells can keep splitting.
Yeah.
Now the rejuvenation of the energy and the youth will happen. But there's another research that found that the more they extend the telomeres, cancer is.
Yeah, cancer. Yeah.
So there's more higher chance of cancer coming. So Krishna has a different plan for everything. These people are trying to manipulate one thing and the thing that they figured out.
Oh, there's always a stopgap.
So that's why they cannot, even though they do all this kind of research, this is the same as like all the medicines. They thought that the medicines will stop the death. So but people will die no matter what.
So what's interesting is, okay, so they wait for the person to die, and then right away they have to freeze the body. Is that it?
Yeah.
Shortly after death.
And they're waiting for some time in the future where people, where they find out a way to bring people back from the dead.
Goal is to preserve the person's neurological structure so that future technologies may be able to restore their personality and memories.
This is the most crazy thing. Anyone who believes that has to be, a moron. No, but what I want to know is it $200,000 one time or $200,000 every year?
No. Go ahead, but I
For
think
whole body preservation, it says $200,000, Maharaj,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
doesn't give the time duration, and 80,000 for only head.
So, but 30 years, I read.
What's the benefit of the head if it's
So they
dead?
somehow think that the brain cells, like for example, Elon Musk is thinking that his brain can be preserved and reproduced, and he thinks that it's his smartness.
Yeah. material guy and this world. But they 30 years maximum they can do this.
Do what?
Some other these cryonics they can preserve up to maximum 30 years.
Keep them frozen 30
Yeah,
years.
that's the cryonics technology. Yeah, they can keep it until 30 years. That's it, maximum.
They're saying?
Yeah, there is one of the other article where it mentioned 30 years they can do it up to 30 years.
And then the body disintegrates. Or...
I mean, beyond that, I don't think they can even help with the cryonics.
But the person is dead.
Yeah, but they preserve this something like.
But wait a minute.
Neurology.
This is the whole point. They have never made an experiment of bringing a person back from the dead. So how do they know that they're going to be, unfreeze the person?
That's speculation. Hopes and speculation.
I mean, humanity has been around for, millions of years.
Yeah, they might have done this and then they might not have done. For 30 years, somebody might have already been put into cryonics or something. They could have done something.
No. They have found whole bodies frozen in Russia, in what's that part of Russia that's always very cold?
Siberia?
Siberia, yeah. They have found whole bodies of people completely frozen. But, when they unfreeze them, they're dead.
They want to preserve them so that in future some scientist can study the neurological structure of that person and use that to reproduce or clone or whatever.
Correct, but Mataji, now this being done, so we already have so many years, right? So somebody should have done by now. In the past, whatever the 100 years, somebody put it in cryonics, they could have done something on that.
Nobody did it.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the first companies that got into the cryonics business, they went bankrupt.
Yeah. So
and then when they went bankrupt, the electricity was turned off. And that was the end of everyone. They gave $250,000. Is it $250,000 a year, or is it one time? One time.
Around 500 people are preserved in liquid nitrogen globally. How many people are in cryonics right now? Today, around 500 people are preserved in liquid nitrogen globally. The vast majority in the United States. Around 4,000 people are on waiting list of cryonics facilities around the world.
Waiting list?
Yeah. So there is an organization called, it's a site like cryonics.org. This Cryonics Institute Technology for Life. Cryonics Institute Technology for Life.
It should say for death, right?
Yeah. Life is priceless.
No, you see, this is crazy. Really, really crazy.
Cryonics become the rats or mouse that they use for scientific experiments. Like that, they want their dead bodies to be used for the scientific experiments in the future.
Okay. Well, I definitely will not do that.
Even scientists who perform cryonics say they haven't successfully revived anyone and don't expect to be able to do so in the near future. One of the problems is that if the warming process isn't done at exactly the right speed, the cells could turn to ice and shatter.
Well, they should experiment. See, they don't know, so they should experiment. They should experiment on one of those people that they're already dead. So you're not murdering them, right? So they can experiment on someone. Why don't they do it?
So there is a natural way to extend the telomere length, so which helps with the anti-aging. That's with the consumption of legumes, nuts, seaweed, fruits, 100% fruit juice, dairy products, and it is inversely associated with the consumption of alcohol, red meat, and processed.
I didn't understand.
So there is how people's life will be extended, more youthful.
By dietary.
Yeah, but this is more natural way.
Yeah.
Rather than they're saying like they'll inject and they'll extend the telomeres, all that is potentially causing cancer.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more organic approach,
right,
which is to consume legumes, nuts, seaweed, fruits, 100% fruit juice, dairy products. Whereas the telomere length is inversely associated with the means it reduces with the consumption of alcohol, red meat, and processed meat.
You have to avoid those three things. Yeah. Well, that's good.
The four regular principles. that we have.
Yeah.
Krishna made it simple. We don't need to read.
Yeah, but actually, well, let's see. I mean, there are people that live long because they're very careful what they eat. But ultimately, it's Krishna or God that determines how long you're going to live.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you can do whatever you want, but ultimately, Krishna is the one that decides. Yeah.
Maharaj, you said use the word science fiction, right?
Yeah.
So yes, and this notion of freezing ourselves into the future is pretty science fiction. And it's naive.
They say that, huh? Who said that?
This is an article.
Yeah.
One of the scientists is saying.
Yeah, well, he's right.
He said the only group getting excited about the possibility are people who specialize in studying the distant future or people who have a stake in wanting you to pay the money to do it.
Yeah, of course. It's a business.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, you have to, you have to figure out how much it costs to keep a person frozen a year. And I can't imagine that it's just a one-time payment because, I guess, well, no, it can't be just a one-time payment because what if you're waiting, 50 years, it would bankrupt the company.
Time duration. You can see something.
They have some membership, so you can take the membership, which is they're saying that you can. There is an institute or something where they can provide this facility, so you can take the membership.
You pay
they
every
charge-
month or pay
yeah. So
every,
there are different plans, right? So
okay.
yeah, annual or something 35,000 annually.
35,000 a year.
Yeah,
For how many years? Every year?
yeah. Every year they have to pay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As long as you want to keep.
Yeah, exactly. When you run out of money, then they say, okay, well, let's forget about it now. Yeah. Okay. So you see, people, what you could say is that in the 21st century, people began to believe things that are impossible to achieve. And there were many different things, like, when Elon Musk says, we'll have, condos on Mars very soon, and people will be living on Mars. That's impossible. When they say we're going to go to the moon, that's also impossible. We're going to live on the moon. That's impossible. Or cryonics, we hope that in the future we'll be able to bring them back from the dead. That means somehow or other, somebody found out how to bring a person back from dead. But that's never happened in the whole history of the world. So basically, what's going to be characteristic about the 21st century is more and more people will be tricked into believing things that are impossible to do. See? And people will make money by convincing people to invest money into things that are impossible to do. Like, for example, did you find that that fusion what do you call it?
Fusion reactor thing. That's
Yeah.
what we researched.
Yeah. Do you know how much money it costs?
It was billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. See, this is another thing that's impossible to do. And they're, first of all, they're saying, it's going to take 35 or 40 years to do it. Right. But they won't be able to do it.
It releases such an enormous amount of energy.
Yeah.
They need ways to contain that energy.
It's dangerous.
Dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That's the main challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're going to go to the moon, or we're going to go to Mars, or we're going to stop people from, we're going to get people who are dead and frozen and bring them back to life, perhaps in the future. Or, we're going to imitate the sun by making a fusion, um,
Yeah.
reactor, and then have free energy. All these things are impossible to achieve, and people are making big time. Well, they're spending big time money, getting money from on that one thing. They're getting money from 35 different countries. They're chipping in millions of dollars. And it's unbelievable how much money is being wasted on nonsense things. And at the same time, see, if you look how much money is wasted on war. I mean, unnecessary wars, like the war with Ukraine and Russia is completely unnecessary war. And but they're spending billions of dollars. I mean, you look at Joe Biden, and he's giving Ukraine billions and billions of dollars every year. Right. If he used that money to help all the poor people in the United States, there wouldn't be any more poor people. But they'll give Zelensky, $10 billion more, or $30 billion more, to keep him going, with the armaments and so forth. And what's happening is that just more and more people are dying. That's all.
Yeah. Yes,
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the Ukrainians, they say, they have their bodily identification. Before, Ukrainians and Russians were allies. They were working together. And then come the politicians, and then the United States also separated the Ukraine, or trained the Ukrainian army, and gave them weapons, and they want to get them into their European, what is that? The European NATO, and just basically just